Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Bill Fogarty. I'm work with MDT, work for MDT. I'm currently the Butte District Construction Supervisor for the department, and welcome to Montana, welcome to Bozeman, and welcome to the Butte District. The state's divided into 5 different districts, and Southwest Montana is district number 2, and so that's the district I work in. The agenda had seal coat warranties general, and I'm just want to qualify, I'm going to talk about Montana's seal coat warranty and its history specifically. We'll talk a little bit about the history of our spec in Montana, the warranty duration or durations we've had, our warranty administration guide, a few case studies since the warranty's been implemented, contractor quality control or controls that what we've noticed they've been utilizing since the spec's been implemented. Talk a little about contract time flexibility, and then if we have any questions, hopefully I can get you some answers to those. I have some notes. I don't have a very good memory, so you'll have to bear with me just a little bit so I can read my notes. I won't get too far down in the weeds. Obviously, this is an example of a typical surface texture for a seal coat in Montana. In 2004, we released our revised specification. It was in the spring of 2004. At that time, we created 2 different cover material types, type 1 and type 2. The type 1 is a 3/8 inch minus material that in the previous spec allowed 0 to 30% to pass the 4 mesh, and the revised spec was changed to 0 to 15%. Initially that was a 0 to 10%, that was my preference, but we did get complaints from the contractor and supply industry, and that prompted the 0 to 15% outcome. And on this particular type 1 cover material, we allowed 0 to 2% to pass the 200 mesh screen. So my review of cover material gradations since the spec has been revised has found that contractors are producing material meeting the 0 to 10, actually more like the 0 to 8% passing the 4, because they're using those materials as intermediate in their grade S volumetric plant mix. So the type 2 cover material is a 1/2 inch minus material. It has 0 to 8% on the 4 mesh and 0 to 1 on the 200. And in my meetings with the producers, the 0 to 1, I know the cleaner the better. On the 200 is the preference, but that does force a wash in most cases, and so it obviously increases the expense. These are just a couple pictures of projects that this is what we want, preferred outcome of our seal coats. This is downtown Seeley Lake on Montana Highway 83 in the Swan Valley. Another picture here on US 12 near east of White Sulphur Springs. This is a very low ADT route, about 300 is all, but recently chipped. That's what we want. This is what we don't want. I had a little fun with Google yesterday, and I put in construction mishaps, and these are a few of the pictures that popped up, so I had to put these in here. But yeah, vehicles coated in oil, windshield damage, of course, we don't want any of that type of chaos going on. So a little bit about the warranty history. Obviously the change, as usual, was prompted by contractor input or driven by the measurement and payment of our cover material is the primary driver in this case. So that then led to the section 409 overhaul. And we ended up having meetings with bonding companies. I'll talk a little bit about that, and then I'll talk a little bit about the warranty type. I got a kick out of this sign. This is located near our office in Butte, and the light wasn't very good that day, so I apologize, but somebody wrote on there, "Stop the government," on the stop sign. So it's within a couple blocks of our headquarters in Butte. But initially, our proposed warranty specification was not particularly popular with contractors and did generate a lot of questions from the bonding companies in the state. In 2002, one of MDT's larger contractors requested changes to the measurement and payment of cover material from ton to the square yard. The contractor shared experiences from projects that they had constructed in Wyoming and that were accepted by the square yard. So that got our attention, and that actually started the overhaul of Section 409. I was a reviewer in the Construction Bureau in Helen at the time, so I was assigned the task of rewriting Section 409 and developing the warranty specifications. The notion to add a warranty requirement was supported by the construction engineer at the time. As we went along and as word got out that the department was considering a warranty, of course, the bonding agents started to call, and so we facilitated a meeting in Helen at the headquarters to discuss or present the proposed spec and then answer their questions. We did have concerns how a warranty and the duration of the warranty might affect bidding competition, that we have a small contractor community in this state, and we didn't want to limit bidding competition by holding bonds and reducing their bidability. So it turned out that it wasn't an issue, and we learned that their bonds are released as payment is made by the DOT. So haven't seen any effects there. MDT's warranty is considered to be a workmanship type warranty rather than a performance warranty, which a performance warranty then would likely evaluate seal coat properties such as aggregate embedment and or skid resistance. So warranty durations, we've had a few when the spec first rolled out. The thought in the Construction Bureau at the time was that in previous experience, if we've had issues with the seal coat, we've noticed them right away. And so we felt fairly safe that we initially only had a 30-day warranty. At some point that was increased. Of course, there was pressure that internally that our warranty was way too short and that we should take it for a year or more and so on. But we adopted a 60-day for a period of time. The current spec was adopted or implemented in revision actually in September 2007. So just 3 years after the spec was rolled out, and the current spec ends on the first Wednesday in December in the same year the seal coat was applied. So depending on when the seal coat is placed, the warranty period can vary in Montana between 3 and 7 months. The chip seal season, I may note this later, but in Montana it's May 1st to August 31st. So that's the window they're allowed to apply seal coat. So you might wonder why the first Wednesday in December at a fixed date definitely simplified the tracking of the warranty end date for our project managers and contractors. As mentioned before, or actually that date, the objective there was to subject most of the seal coats in the state to below freezing overnight temperatures and 1 or 2 snow removal cycles. And it just so happens that the first Wednesday in December falls after hunting season in Montana, which was also weighed into the decision to have the first Wednesday in December. If we have a warranty issue on a project, it doesn't matter if we have one or not, we're required to have a review as the warranty expires of every seal coat project, and we felt it might be a bit difficult to get contractors and project managers together if hunting season were still going, so that's actually was considered. Since the warranty was implemented in 2004, there's been discussion about extending the warranty period through the first winter or up to 1 year. This proposal hasn't been widely supported to date due to concerns the contractor would be forced to bid risk they have no control over, for example, snow plow and tire chain damage. So. Next up, talk a little bit about the Seal Coat Warranty Administration Guide. We opted to utilize a picture guide. MDT Maintenance, I believe, had a picture guide for maybe crack seal or one of their processes, and that prompted the thought I'd much rather provide pictures and maybe short little blurbs guidance versus trying to write this guidance into a specification. So I called it a photo tour in summer of 2003, but I spent a lot of 2003 while working in the Construction Bureau, out on projects at the crushing facilities, out with the chip contractors, and so all around the state, gathering gradation data, taking photos, so on. So a lot of the information that shows up in the Seal Coat Warranty Administration Guide was actually captured during that summer. The intent obviously is to strive for uniform administration, provide guidance on monitoring and documentation of the seal coat during the warranty period. It does provide materials deduct examples. In some cases we would take a deduct versus requiring rework. And so this guide was released concurrently with the spec in the spring of 2004. I would note that, or should note, the NCHRP Synthesis 342 Chip Seal Best Practices was published in 2005, and for me, so that followed roughly a year after our implementation, as the primary author, I guess, of the spec, it gave me comfort that MDT's specification encompassed a number of the best practices recommended in this synthesis. For example, more end result versus a method spec. We had a very method spec prior to that. We specified the equipment, you know, the roller speeds, you name it. If you could spec it, we did it with a method spec. The new spec allows contract time flexibility. One of the recommendations in the synthesis is early season application tends to have higher success, more cure time before the cold temperatures. Use of a warranty and appropriate assignment of risk. Talked a little about that we don't want contractors trying to place a number on, well, did the snowplow driver drive the maximum 45 miles an hour allowed, or did they get carried away and now I have to replace chips that were torn off through snowplow chatter or tire chain damage. The last is single size aggregate, allowing, you know, less than 2% past the 200 sieve is another recommendation in there. Those are just a few. The single size aggregate, like say, I lost that battle a bit. If you want to, today you can produce material with up to 15% passing the 4. This is a shot of the cover of the Warranty Administration Guide. I have a few slides that'll just show kind of the content or the format of it. You know, this is an amazing looking chip seal job. This is obviously what we're after. This is the workmanship part. We feel that, you know, and by and large this is what we're getting. The guide layout was intended to be simple and offer notes on condition and repair recommendations when applicable. The photos taken here were on State Highway 37 near the Libby Dam on Lake Koocanusa. That's up in northwest Montana. Another picture here, so the idea is to provide a condition, cover material loss attributed to insufficient embedment, and we have surface segregation, physical segregation in the plant mix surfacing. There's comments and then recommendations. In this particular case, this condition is unacceptable and must be repaired prior to final acceptance. This was a project in the Glendive district, which is in eastern Montana. You may have seen this slide. I believe our materials engineer, Matt Strizich, asked for that picture on the left, so he may have shown it in a presentation previously. Another example here, we added snowplow and tire chain damage examples based on feedback from both contractors and field personnel. So these examples were added in the 2008 revision, which is the most current revision of the Seal Coat Warranty Administration Guide. Next, I'll talk a little bit about administrative case studies, I guess. And Matt Strizich, the materials engineer for MDT, asked that I offer up either effective or less than effective examples, and we have both. While I'm on this slide, in 2009, so 5 years after the spec was implemented, there was still talk about your warranty duration's too short, or we're having too many failures. And so the Construction Engineering Services Bureau did a survey of the districts. It turns out we had 353 projects that included seal and cover during that period, and we had we wanted to determine which projects since 2004 had seal and cover warranty issues, for example, chip loss. There were some other questions asked also. The summary of findings were that there were 20 projects reported to have seal and cover warranty issues, or around 6%. And I'll talk a little more about what those issues were, be more specific. The top 5 factors that appeared to cause the chip loss were as follows. Lack of embedment. There were 12 of those projects had lack of embedment. The coarse PMS, plant mix surfacing, or the surface voids, those were all 5 projects in the Glendive district out east. Plow damage, 4 projects that were determined to have been chip loss due to plow damage. And then the other significant was chipped within 3 days of paving. 4 projects in the Glendive district. 3 other projects were loss was attributed to cool weather, cold overnight temperatures. The most common factor for the chip loss was lack of embedment. And then obviously this factor is within the control of the contractor. In most cases, the contractor was required to reapply the areas of chip loss in accordance with the warranty. I guess talking about administration, me sitting in my chair and where I was in the Construction Bureau is I hope we never have to administer a warranty. Of course, that's not realistic, but as many of us have experienced, the seal coat failures of any kind quickly garner the attention of the traveling public and politicians. It's in everyone's best interest that we work with our contractors and strive to avoid failures whenever possible. So just want to qualify that. I hope I don't have to administer too many warranties. And this year, at this time, we don't have any warranty issues that we're monitoring in our district. So, Polson East is my first example. This is on Montana 35. Again, it's up in the northwest portion of the state. Shows some pictures of the severity of the loss. Right away, chips were being lost on this job. I was in the Construction Bureau at the time, so I was asked to go up and conduct a review. When we do these reviews, we invite the contractor. The prime contractor on this project had already conducted their own review, and they opted not to participate with us, but rather wait for our report and recommendations for repair. It was the contractor's first project using the 1/2 inch- or type 2 cover material. The project was chipped in late August, of the last couple days of the season actually. The morning temps were in the low 40s. On the particular day this section was chipped, they had fog and high humidity. Ultimately, the distributor was found to be out of calibration. It actually applied 33 hundredths of a gallon per square yard, and they had it set at 45. So the following year, the contractor reapplied the seal coat and the pavement markings at their expense. Another project, this one's in my district, the Butte district. This is on I-90, a ways west of here. These failures are attributed to the contractor's poor quality control and application practices, ultimately lack of embedment. There were strong crosswinds blowing during the application, which affected obviously the spray pattern, spray bar height. Our project manager noted a number of potential issues during the application process or placement, but the contractor refused advice or input from the MDT project manager. The contractor then ultimately re-chipped failed areas, approximately 40% of the project total the following year. That was probably the most difficult warranty administration. This contractor basically tried to hold, of course, his bituminous supplier and his aggregate supplier and everybody he could possibly think of accountable, and we were getting phone calls about how they would defend themselves. And like I say, none of the I would prefer not to administer any of these warranties, but we have to. So here's another picture of the same project. I actually had a phone call on this project from a local citizen, and they weren't so concerned. It was a gal, actually, an older lady, and she said, "It's obvious that something went wrong with the process you just did on the Cottonwood Hill, and it's failed. And I understand that, and you have reduced speed, you have traffic control, you're having windshield damage. I get that. But my question is whether or not you're going to hold the contractor accountable for this." And I said, "Just so happens we have a warranty, and yes, we are." And that appeased that person, but that's the first time that I'd received a call about what are you going to do about the contractor, because this something obviously went wrong. So this is another example, I-15. This is in our district. We have two interstates, so Interstate 15 and 90, that go through the district, and we have about 190 miles of each interstate in our district. So we have the most interstate miles of any of the districts in Montana. This is Interstate 15, much lower ADT on 15 than there is on 90. This contractor chipped this with Moose Creek Hill, it's called, early in the spring, actually right out of the chute in May. They were in a big hurry. They paved it the year before, and this was going to be the first job. They chipped the following spring. The overnight temps were below 40 degrees. We began noticing chip loss shortly after completion, and especially up on this mountain pass portion, not necessarily down in the valley. We put the contractor on notice to observe, which that's a good practice. I mean, nobody likes to get caught off guard. So happened this contractor was traveling from Missoula to Salt Lake once a week, so they had ample opportunity to observe the progression of the failure. When we conducted the warranty review in December, we isolated 7 lane miles of chip seal that had to be repaired and actually re-chipped and replaced the following year at contractor expense. So the contractor took ownership during the warranty review, and we were satisfied with the areas and we haven't had issues since, actually. These are just other examples. Not real severe loss by any means, but it warranted repairs. This project, Milligan Canyon, again on Interstate 90, so a few miles west of us here, 20, 30 miles. This is actually around 7,000 ADT on this section of Interstate 90. This flushed oil appearance diminished significantly once the overnight temps fell below 40 degrees. We've seen that on a number of jobs where flushing or tracking, is going to raise red flags. It wasn't live oil. We weren't flinging oil or painting cars. So a challenge, actually, since we've implemented the warranty is, we want the picture perfect, supposedly seal coat job when we're done. But in my opinion, having oil near the surface and tracking is not a bad thing. It's certainly not a failure. It would be an indication that we probably have adequate embedment, and I'd much rather have 50% or so embedment than none just on the contact surface. So this is another up close picture of that particular job, and this is a really arid area in our district, and the last 2 times this section of interstate's been chipped, it's been around 100 degrees Fahrenheit when it's been chipped, and this 2 different contractors chipped it. But lesson learned here is, this one is a candidate where you want to get in there early in the season and avoid. This oil actually was reactivating every day. It was around 85, 86 degrees, and boom, the oil would reactivate, and tracking, flushing would start again. And so the contractor was actually out watering this road for 4 or 5 days after it was chipped, trying to cool the surface temperature. So those were more effective examples. In the last one, there weren't any warranty issues other than the contractor did spend time and money watering the road when that oil was reactivating. This US 20 Targhee Pass, this is in extreme southwest Montana. This is down by Yellowstone Park. This one was for sure less effective, and I'll explain why. This failure again was attributed to the contractor's poor quality control and application practices. The seal coat was applied the end of August. We had fog and high humidity conditions during application. The overnight temps again were below 40 degrees. Cover material loss began immediately after application, required reduced speeds and frequent brooming. We had excessive fly rock. My phone rang off the hook. We had between 30 and 50 windshield claims. I have a funny little story about that. Now it's funny. I got really good that year at saying I'm sorry, and so the maintenance chief teased me. He says, your wife must be loving you nowadays. And I'm like, why is that? He goes, you're getting really good at saying sorry. He could hear me apologizing on the phone from his office. But I had a gal call from a hair salon in West Yellowstone one day during these windshield claims, and I said, well, I'll get you the form, don't worry, and we'll handle it through the tort process. She goes, well, I got you on the phone. There's 3 or 4 other folks that had windshield damage that are in the hair. So they were passing the phone around in the hair salon, and I was giving the same spiel. So it was quite the deal there. So Ultimately, 30% of the seal coat failed by the end of the warranty period, and the reason we say this is a less effective example. There's a mountain pass on part of this project, and then there's a flat, straight section that's at a lower elevation that actually goes into the town of West Yellowstone. And that particular portion of the project did not fail, or we didn't deem that it had failed within the warranty period. Ultimately, it did through the winter when the snow plows got on it. So the entire chip seal essentially failed. The chips were plowed off the road. So the following year, the contractor had to pay, of course, all the mobilization costs and chip 30% on his dime, but the department made the decision to chip the other 70% the following year. So, and we had to bear those costs, and it was federal aid eligible because we followed our warranty specification. So again, this is considered a less effective example due to the number of damage claims, prolonged loss of cover material, and inconveniences to the traveling public until we could apply the seal coat, of course, of the following season. Kind of a close-up shot of one of our mini reviews of Targhee Pass and the cover material loss. On to contractor traffic control. How am I doing for time, David?
Probably shouldn't be wrapping up.
Okay. This mixed design process is a bit interesting. That's typically consulted out. The contractor does the mixed design for the seal coats. Their design typically provides an application range and a disclaimer statement for use dependent on actual plant mix surfacing conditions. So our Montana spec requires contractors furnish the mixed design and compatibility test results for informational purposes. There is a test section required, and you have to apply the bituminous material at the rate established by the test section. MDT does pay for binder by the ton to encourage application of sufficient quantities and ensure adequate embedment. The current basis of planned quantity rate is 0.42, so 0.42 gallons per square yard, and this was increased shortly after the warranty spec was implemented from 0.4 of a gallon rate. Some contractors are adjusting application rates depending on the age and the evaluation of the surface voids. Some have requested to pre-treat high surface void areas to mitigate binder drain down effects, which we encourage. Stockpile moisture, we're not seeing water running out of the bed of the end dumps as we did in the days when we were paying for cover material by the ton. They're paying a lot of attention to weather, ambient, and pavement surface temperatures. They have to meet the bituminous supplier's recommendations. Extreme cases, on one or more occasions, the seal coat subcontractor has refused to apply seal coat due to risk and concerns with ability to meet warranty requirements. The cases I'm aware of involve freshly placed plant mix surfacing with excessive aggregate segregation and high surface voids. So since we've implemented the warranty, and as is usual with an end result specification, our owner involvement and risk and challenges for MDT is the warranty or end result specs. Our field inspectors tend to be overly cautious about directing the contractor's operation, encouraging field staff to take ownership in the specification, offer the contractor advice based from their observations and experience, and actively participating during construction is critical. We don't want folks sitting back waiting for the end result and then we're reactively dealing with a failure. Finally, contract time. We allow windows of time, flexibility in the contract time. For example, if the seal coat and pavement marking work are the only remaining items of work coming into the spring, we don't begin charging contract time until the first working day after the 4th of July holiday or the Independence Day holiday. If a contractor chooses to start before then, obviously time charges begin at that point. So we have the window or flexibility in the early season, and we also have a window in the late season. Starting about August 20th, we've noted when the overnight temperatures fall below 40 degrees, that's kind of the magic number, where we're seeing that we do have failure or chip loss. We're more susceptible. So if a contractor, again, only has that work remaining, if they choose not to chip after August 20th, we won't charge time between the 20th and the 31st, just to allow that, again, opportunity for best chance for success when they apply the chip seal. And that's it. Any questions?
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.